Welcome to Going Behind the Book with Bert. Today our focus will be on author Mary Roach. She wrote the book Stiff. This book was written after the death of her mother. Her curiosity about the process of death and its final stages drove her to anatomy labs, to crash test centers, and even crash sites, and even to exploring messy and illegal history. Joining us today is Jenna Burlow. She has read this book and is prepared to present her thoughts and her summary. Welcome to you, Jenna. Thank you so much for joining us, and we anticipate your personal responses and feelings. My first question that I wanted to ask, obviously, did you like the book or not?
Yeah, the book as a whole, not completely, but parts of it I did.
Well, what were some of the things that you did like?
Well, chapter 10 was pretty interesting about the people, cannibalism, people eating other people.
Oh, okay. And what were some of the things that you really didn't like?
I didn't like that in one of the chapters that talking about donating your body to science, that the families and you won't know what the body will be used for.
Had you, before that, thought that you would be able to know from what you've learned about organ donating?
Yeah, I thought you would have at least an idea where it would be going to.
And so this kind of surprised you
Yeah,
in this
it did a
article.
lot.
That's really, well, and I think maybe that's what she was trying to impress upon people too, that you don't really know. Even if you're specific in your will or things like that, it can still be changed. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's like if you completely donate without like saying, I just want to be for this,
Okay.
like a specific thing, because they'll do that.
Okay.
But if you want, like if you just say to donate your body to science,
They do whatever.
then they do whatever they
Okay.
need at the
All right,
time that they're doing.
I see what you mean. What's maybe one thing that you kind of learned besides the donating of organs or donation? Is there anything else that you learned from this book?
There was many things, I guess. Just the way that some of the colleges that she visited, like how they do tests and stuff, like the different
Were
things.
these specific parts of the college, was this anatomy or something?
Yeah, one
Okay.
of the Tennessee, I believe,
Okay.
had its own area where they tested different dead people and how they reacted to the sun and how they decompose, just leaving it be without people touching it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Was there also, or did you find out from the book, when they give the whole body, do they use like all the parts?
It depends on what they're actually being used for, like
Okay.
I said before. Like they could be doing anything specific, but like overall they'll be testing different things to use on what organs and this and that.
Okay, so how certain tests will apply to
Yeah,
different things,
yeah.
okay. Now, I want to go back real quickly to this chapter that you referred to called cannibalism. Was there any particular thing that really, sparked your curiosity or something?
Well, in the chapter it talked about how the daughter-in-law would feed a part of her own body to the mother-in-law to show that she was worthy and this and that.
Didn't this kind of seem a little gross to you, though?
Yeah, it was really disgusting.
Oh, well, I suppose, was there any part of it, though, that fascinated you a little bit?
Not really, it was kind of like gross. But like it was the gross, interesting kind of thing where you gotta like keep reading to know what happens.
So the shock technique kind of
Yeah.
took a hold of you. Okay, that's very interesting, and sometimes just the everyday mundane doesn't really strike you, but when you finally find out something that's a little scary. When you studied this cannibalism, was there any particular part of the country or any particular country where this was used more than others?
I believe it was also used in Sweden. And there was a couple other that I can't remember right offhand.
Were there any more recent things that she followed in her book any recent activities that would show that this still happens today?
Well, she used, when she was doing this, she did like crash test dummies. So like, they don't use real bodies anymore, they use the dummies.
Right.
But like, they still like do that, but they like.
Had they previously done that using real bodies?
Yeah, they used it. They also used it for planes crashes, just simulation of that.
Interesting.
And they also used the impact test with shooting people with weapons, to test the weapons on
To-
the dead bodies.
Oh,
the
so
cadavers.
how different parts of the body would react to that?
Yep.
Very interesting. I don't know if I could have made it through that book. I really give you a lot of credit for getting all the way through it too. That was it. That's quite a title that she has, Stiff. Is there any particular reason why you would think she would call that?
I personally believe because after like the cadaver is dead, like it just goes. Another quote that she said was, on a rational level, most people are comfortable with the concept of brain death and organ donation, but on an emotional level, they may have a harder time accepting it. There was also something else. She also said that, like, it makes little sense to try to control what happens to the remains when you are no longer around to reap the joys or benefits of that control.
So that kind of referred back to the beginning when you were saying that,
Yeah.
Unless you specify what it is.
Yeah.
You did mention something about the being brain dead. Is there any other, like a lot of times I've heard that a person's heart stops. And was there anything that she said about that too?
When we were reading this, like in a group, whatever,
Mhm.
she talked about like being brain dead and like your heart stops or whatever, are two different things. So you can like kind of like.
So I've heard that actually they've done experiments where they take a heart out and keep it going.
Yeah.
She mentioned that too?
Machines,
Wow.
I guess.
Interesting. Well, if you were to summarize this book for us, how would you summarize it?
The book, it doesn't really like, each chapter doesn't like follow each
Okay.
other. So it talks about different ways, like how she went through researching things and like how she, like it talks about like what she was doing at the time and stuff. So
Now, did she go to different places?
yeah,
Is that what
like
you're saying?
chapter 3 it talks
Okay.
about like the life after death. So like the human decay and what's done about it and stuff, so that's when she goes. And it's just different chapters on what the cadavers go through after, if they donate their body to science.
Sure.
That's
Okay.
what she wanted to research.
Well, I know that that you had mentioned too something about some of the exploring was a bit messy, and she also wanted to go back in history a little bit. Was that a part of this too?
Yeah, I believe it's chapter 11 talks about her researching cremation.
Okay. Oh, all right.
So, and how that also pollutes the air. So they're trying to figure out, because like if you were buried, like the gases are polluting
Oh,
the ground.
well, that's a
So,
pleasant
like,
thought.
The scientists were trying to figure out different ways to not pollute the air so much with
So-
dead bodies.
So they're saying cremation also pollute, I suppose
the
when they
burning.
dispose. Oh, that's interesting. Wow, well, is there anything else in summary that you can think of?
Not really. It talks about the different, the last chapter here, I'll summarize that one, talks about like what the author would do to donate her body. And she would like to, and then, but if she dies before her husband dies, then her husband will decide what she does with her body.
What he's gonna do with
Yeah.
it? Well, that's
She gives a
interesting.
sign from that or whatever.
That's interesting.
yeah.
Well, if you, let's say that do you recommend
For you, I recommend it to anybody that can hold and doesn't have a queasy stomach.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah.
As far as educational wise, do you feel that there was quite a bit of education that
Yeah,
you got
there's
out
a
of
lot of research involved and
it? Okay. Does it give you any thoughts to going into any kind of anatomy?
No.
Definitely not. It's very interesting. The other part that I was just wondering if you could do, as you summarized this book and talked about it, is there any other people that you would recommend this to rather than the people that aren't squeamish? How about
Anybody
somebody
that
your
wants
age?
Anybody that wants to like get into science and that, like to learn more about like just stuff like this. So
Okay, so in the medical field or
Yeah.
something like that, so. Well, it certainly has been very interesting talking to you. I'm not gonna say that I would read the book, because I tend to be a bit squeamish. However, I really have appreciated your time.
thank you.
And
It's been my pleasure.
wonderful. I'm glad that we could have this. Now, the other thing is, as you have read one book, would you feel like you'd want to read any other
Of hers?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Probably not. Just because, is it her style of writing?
Yeah.
Or, okay,
I don't know. It's just different, I guess. It's not what I normally read.
okay. Was it hard reading? In other words, did it take
Yeah, there's a
you-
lot of big words.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
that makes a big difference. You have to stop and look some
Yeah.
of those up, so. Well, once again, I want to thank you for coming in today. This has certainly been enlightening. Did the rest of your classmates read this, or?
There was different groups. So
Okay.
like 3 others read it.
Okay, and, well, it'll be interesting to find out what
Yeah.
they have to say. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay. In this book, there were so many things that you talked about that she has written. Were there any specific things that you could relay to us?
Yeah, in the back of the book there was a reading guide, so I'd like to read stuff that she said from that. The first thing was the smell of the decomposing human.
Oh, that sounds great.
So it is dense and cowling, sweet but not flower sweet, halfway between rotting fruit and rotting meat.
Ooh,
Which I
sounds
thought
like you
was
need a,
really disgusting.
yes, like you need a can of Lysol or something to spray. We were talking a little bit about, oh, excuse me, about the book Stiff